Welcome to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhart with another episode. And here today, I am with Leah Scurto from Windsor, California. And for those of you who don't know where Windsor is, many of you do, of course, but for those who don't, I'm going to let Leah tell you. But it's my old stomping grounds. And so I'm excited to be with Leah, who is, for the last 2 years, has been operating one of the hot pizzerias in the country. And we're going to talk about Pizza Leah right now. Leah Scurto, welcome to Pizza Quest.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much.
Sure. So you are in Windsor. Let's, for the benefit of those few people who don't know where Windsor is, why don't you tell us where it is and how you ended up there?
So Windsor, actually one of the less known cities up here, but I'm in Sonoma County, which is about an hour north of San Francisco, surrounded by wineries and vineyards and agriculture, fresh produce. It's a beautiful place to live, beautiful place to own a restaurant. So Windsor is kind of smack dab. It's just the next town north of Santa Rosa. Most people know Santa Rosa better than
right. I think of when I lived there, I used to think of Windsor as just an extension of Santa Rosa. It was like you continue, up whatever it was, Redwood Highway or whatever the road was that ran parallel to 101, and in a few minutes you were in Windsor. But
exactly.
When I lived there, and I've been out of Sonoma County for over 20 years now, almost 25 years. Windsor was just a place on a map. I mean, there were wineries and there was beautiful countryside there, but I don't remember there being an actual town of Windsor. Is that a new phenomenon?
Yeah, it is newer. I mean, it's always been a town of Windsor, as far as I've known. When I was a kid, it was where the water slides were.
Oh,
Anybody like San Francisco, Marin County people would come to Windsor to go to the water park.
That's yes, I remember that.
The Windsor Waterworks.
Yes, the Windsor Waterworks. Right.
There's actually a brewery up here now, Cooperage, that does an ode to the Windsor Waterworks, and it's a pale ale called "You're Gonna Get Wet."
Yeah. Do they have some water slides there for old time's sake?
They should, right? At least
they should.
Slides.
They're missing a great opportunity. if there was actual water up there, which is right now, a big scary problem.
Yeah, it's true. But Windsor's really grown. There's a big town green now. Lot of families are living around the area. There's they got Thursday night concerts at the town green. Tuesday nights they do movie night, family movie night. So it's really incredible how far and how much Windsor has grown.
Yeah, when I was there a couple of weeks ago, it really felt like it was a happening village, a happening small town, and almost a throwback kind of town, and a beautiful town square area where Pizza Leah is located, surrounded by some other nice shops. Oliver's Market, which is always one of the most popular markets. I didn't know there was an Oliver's Market in Windsor. We used to go to the one in Cotati, but Oliver's Market's a great, upscale gourmet market, and lots of other cool places and things going on there. So the town has come alive, and you're kind of at the center of it. But I was there. I was out a couple weeks ago for some other thing. I knew, and we planned this, months before. Our friends John Ash and Steve Garner, who have a wonderful radio show, a weekly, oldest food radio show in the country. I think they've been doing it for 35, 40 years. Well, I think they say west of the Mississippi because there may be one person east of the Mississippi who's done it a year longer than them, but they have been on continuously. And when I lived out there, I was a regular guest and still try to get on whenever I can. And they're wonderful. And so we had planned to come up to Pizza Leah because they had you on their show. And I'd been reading about you and hearing about you and knew that, next time I got out there, I was going to come up and experience it for myself. And we did. We put a little group together, and John Ash and I and a couple of other people came up, and you put out a feast of pizzas for us that, we were kind of like our jaws were dropping. And I'll just say this one thing, and then I want you to describe some of your sort of signature pizzas. The first one you brought out was the simplest of all the pizzas. I don't know if it was, I can't remember if you called it just sauce and cheese or what it was, but it was basically a basic sauce and cheese pizza. And I have to say that set the stage because still, of all the other pizzas that came that we loved, that was still my favorite. It just
Oh,
kind of
good.
like the flavors just popped, and so tell us a little bit about, number one, how you got into pizza, your vision of it, your philosophy about pizza, and because you're into competitions now, you're getting international, acclaim. So how did this all happen for you?
It all started just at 18 years old. I needed a job. I was in college at UC Santa Cruz and walked into a pizzeria to get a job. I've told this story a few times, but I always bring it back to that nostalgia of childhood nostalgia of why I walked into a pizzeria instead of going to any of the other restaurants. And it was going to be a restaurant that I got a job at.
Yeah.
My whole family's been in restaurants. Basically grew up in a restaurant up in Tahoe. My dad owned a Mexican restaurant called Cantina Los Tres Hombres. And my brother and I basically grew up at the restaurant. My parents would close it down and we'd be sleeping in the booths after the dining room closed. We'd be playing video games, all night long and going up to the bar, and the bartender would give us quarters.
Yeah.
So the restaurant,
you were destined for the restaurant.
Yeah. My dad told me.
Is your name, are you partly Italian and partly Mexican? Is that your heritage?
Exactly.
So, again, destined for food.
Right. And my dad told me my whole life, like, don't go into the restaurant business.
Yeah.
He told my brother and I both over and over and over, and we both did it. So there was no stopping us.
Yeah. When it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah. But I just always loved pizza from a young age. And I, remember it was my 7th birthday and going into a family friend's pizzeria in Kings Beach. And he brought me into the kitchen and let me make my own pizza that day. And that's like the root of my pizza love, stems back to my 7th birthday. Wow. And so when I walked there's something that drew me in to the pizzeria that day when I went to go get a job. And that was it, the nostalgia and the love for pizza that I've always had. And
you've been making them ever since.
And yeah, it's 25 years ago. I've been making pizzas ever since.
But then at some point along the way, you must have happened to make you get into it in a serious way, because all of a sudden I'm seeing you winning competitions and in magazines and all sorts of stuff's going on for you.
And part of that was, a push from my boss at the time. I was working for a company called Pizza My Heart, and we always used to go to Pizza Expo. And at some point, Chuck was watching these competitions and said, "Hey, we got to enter. You should go. You got to do this." And so I did. That's
how it's happened for quite a number of people. Is like, wait a second, I can do that.
Yeah, and I always found the competitions like a great place to learn.
Yeah.
The amount of talent in that competition area every year in Las Vegas is just astronomical. Yeah. And if you just hang out, shut up and listen, like you can learn a lot just being around there, just absorbing and watching what people are doing and listening and asking a question here and there.
It's true. I mean, you don't even have to go to the workshops. You just walking the floor at the Pizza Expo, you're going to just pick up stuff left and right by osmosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I don't know. It was one of those things. I just loved what I did. And I loved the company I worked for. I loved the people I worked with, and just stayed in the industry and stayed in the business.
When you went to the expo in the early days, did you used to go to some of the workshops and classes too? Did you or try to pick people's brains about anything, technique?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely pick people's brains, but it was mostly, like I said, in the competition area. We did a couple seminars here and there. So Pizza My Heart used to bring a huge group. They would bring all the general managers. So it started as 2 restaurants and then slowly built. Now I think there's 25 just in the Bay Area.
Well, is that based in San Francisco? Where was it?
No, Santa Cruz.
Oh, Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
okay.
Santa Cruz was the original, Santa Cruz Capitola Village, the original restaurants. But So Chuck, the owner, would bring all the managers, and we would have kind of like internal competitions. We'd team up. There was always like, who can find the best new idea out on the show floor. So it was really like, he'd bring us to inspire everyone and to see what's new and to get fresh ideas. And
that was a smart move.
It was a really smart move.
Yeah,
I mean, it was really incredible. I mean, there was times when we'd go, and like, my first one, I think, was in 2002 or 2001.
Wow, like 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were a kid then.
I haven't missed one since.
Wow, really?
Yeah. The COVID year when there wasn't one, but I've gone, and we didn't start competing until around 2008 or so. But
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Yes. So in a sense, you were having internal competition, and had your own mini pizza expo at Pizza My Heart.
Yeah.
And kind of were cultivating creativity and competition. And then you were ready for the stage when it finally happened. So what do you recall when it was you kind of won or made your first notable entry at one of the competitions?
In Vegas specifically, I think was I want to say maybe 2010. I won the division, because it used to be broken up. Now they just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like top 5.
Yeah,
like
but they had like different categories.
It used to be like there were division winners from whatever part of the world you were from.
Oh, I see.
So there was like, they broke up the US into 3 or 4. There was, an international. The international was broken into, I think, 2 parts. And then it was broken down by like non-traditional or traditional.
Yeah.
And so it took me a couple competitions to figure it out, and figure it out, the execution part and how you get to the competition with all your gear and do all your prep and all of that. But I think it was 2010 maybe that we kind of won. I won the division that I was in, and that just from there was like, okay, I got to keep doing this. Well,
along that way, you met a lot of great pizza makers. You met a lot of people from around the world. Were there any people that made an impression on you, that were inspirational for you or helped you sort of chart out your own path?
I think yes, absolutely. Like, there were people who I would watch and I would see, and like this, this person's incredible. And Brian Spangler being one.
Oh yeah. Well, Brian's a regular on Pizza Quest. He's we call him one of our pizza Yodis.
He was. And,
yeah.
He didn't know who I was for years, I'm sure. We know each other now, but like, I would see what he was doing, and he wasn't always like a pizza expo guy, but I would, I knew about a pizza shows, and I knew about, watching that, watching what he's doing. And, but really my biggest inspiration kind of came internally within the company.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
And there were some people too that I like didn't necessarily know who they were, some of the Italian guys, and we would just kind of like stand back and kind of watch what they were doing. And I didn't really know any of them and never really introduced myself to them. I was a little bit intimidated, but
I know the crew from Italy that would come over, they had a different kind of gravitas about them. I mean, you kind of just by virtue of being Italian and maybe not speaking any English at all, it gave them this sort of extra aura about them. We automatically believed that they must know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they were doing some pretty good stuff. Yeah.
And it was the kind of the one like form of pizza that I hadn't really studied or delved into, was like that true Neapolitan, and trying to watch and learn how they make the sauce, and how they, their different techniques for pushing out and opening up the dough. And just kind of watching all that stuff happen.
So you really were kind of paying your dues by being there and watching. When did when did you finally get to like work in a wood-fired oven? Was that because that wasn't
Ooh.
probably happening at the beginning for you?
No, yeah, because we were cooking, I was cooking in Baker's gas ovens, Baker's Prides, Montagues, that sort of thing.
Like Brian Spangler.
Yeah, for a majority of the time. But, I don't think I really got into, actually, I know what it is. The first time, it was about 2014 is really when I started learning about wood fire cooking. And that was because I had been invited with the US pizza team to go compete in Italy. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what's, everybody was like, oh yeah, it's all wood fired ovens over there. So I'm like, well, okay, I gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Frank Giovanni, has a wood fire oven in his backyard, and invited my buddy Tim and I to go to his house and spend the day cooking and learning how to operate the wood fire oven. So that was kind of my first, and I'd seen them here and there and like played with them a little bit, but I really didn't know the nuances of operating and maintaining the fire, maintaining the heat, and how to properly cook in a wood fire oven until that day.
Well, moving into that Neapolitan sort of direction for a little while, it's not part of what your pizzeria even today is, but it added another piece of the puzzle for you. How would you say it's sort of shaped your own vision for what is Pizza Leah? What is the distinguishing characteristic of Leah's Pizza that is now called Pizzeria Leah or Pizza Leah?
Yeah.
What would it be?
I would say like more New York influenced than Neapolitan. I really wanted to learn everything I could about all the different styles of pizza. I love wood fire ovens and I love working a wood fire oven, but it's not necessarily my favorite style of pizza to eat.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, and it isn't for everybody in this country. It came on with a bang, and it's sort of plateaued. And some people are doing phenomenal work, and we're experiencing Italy, Naples quality pizza here for the first time. But it's still not. It hasn't won America over. I think Americans still love what we call, pizza Americano.
Yeah, and it's hard to find someone around that's doing true Neapolitan pizzas as well. But I love, so I cook on today in my restaurant. I have electric deck ovens. I have the Capone.
Oh yeah, okay, good.
Which I really love, and I love that it's versatile in terms of the temperature. Gas ovens were so much of managing the oven to make sure the bottom is always hot and always cooking, and the deck is up to temperature. With these controls that the electric ovens have right now, like there's never a problem with the deck cooling down.
So that's a big part of the technique, is just having control over that. What I'd like to do is let's take a little break here, because we're halfway through our allotted time, and we'll take a break, but we come back, I want to delve more deeply into, what is Pizza Leah and what makes it your pizza, because there were definitely choices when we ate there. There were choices you made, whether it was the sauce, the cheeses, the various types of pizzas that you do. I want to hear more about that and how that is evolving and shaping up for you. So join us back in part 2 with our interview with Leah Scurto, who's coming to us from Windsor, California. We're going to hear about Pizza Leah and where, well, we sort of have come to how it got here. Now we're going to find out where it's going. We'll be back in part 2 with Leah. Welcome back to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhart with Leah Scurto today, coming to us from Windsor, California, which I'm going to situate this again for those who aren't clear about this. It's, if you know Sonoma County, the wine, I'd say the premier wine county of California, of the United States, even though the folks from Napa will disagree. But having lived in Sonoma County, I will say Sonoma wins. And it's somewhere kind of in between the Russian River and the Alexander Valley, which are two very important regions within Sonoma County. And right in the middle of all that, there is Windsor, which is sort of a crossroads to everything. And for those who may have been there as youths, you may recall the Windsor Waterworks that we were discussing earlier today. They're not there anymore, are they, Leah?
No, it's been gone for a while.
It's a shame. But anyway, time marches on. And instead, we now have a beautiful little town center of Windsor with a wonderful pizzeria called Pizza Leah, and that is generating a lot of buzz. So I wanted to ask you before we talk a little bit about your pizzas is, you got to travel, you mentioned to, going over to Italy with the team. So you must have connected with some of the team members. And are there any, were there any sort of connections that you made that were noteworthy and memorable? There a lot of women are now becoming major players, which is a big change in the pizza community.
Oh yeah.
So how did that work for you?
It's great. This last time in Italy, just this last April, there's two separate pizza teams, but all the women from both teams that were there, we all got together and went out a couple of different times to have an Aperol spritz and some snacks and just connect and be together in Italy, which was really amazing. That was Nicole Bean, Laura Meyer,
Yeah.
Christina Smith. I think, was there anybody? I think that was it. I think there was just the four of us.
What about the woman from New York, from Queens? Nicole, was she there? Was she on either of the teams?
No, that was not. I think she was in Naples a couple years.
Yeah,
I'm
not sure that she's actually competed. I think she's just gone along as, for as part of sort of the observation team or whatever.
Yeah.
Nicole Russell. I'm looking at some of the ones who are featured in the book. I'm hoping that I'm getting ready to have a conversation with my publisher. We're hoping to have a Pizza Quest Volume 2, and one of the criteria, because when I was working on this book, you were just getting up and running at Pizza Leah, so we hadn't had you on the show yet, so you're not in this book. But if we get Volume 2 going, then I definitely want to feature you, you and one of your pizzas in the next volume of Pizza Quest. But
that would be amazing.
But there are quite a number of I would say important women now, with women as a category, women pizzaiolas are becoming an important influencer category within the pizza world. So we have people like Nicole Russell, who has her pizza in the book is called I just had it here, the Kiss Me Converse. It's a jerk chicken pizza that's sort of a tribute to her Jamaican roots. And then we had Audrey Sherman, or Audrey Kelly.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, and so she was on one of the teams. So I didn't realize that there were two different teams. How did that work with having two teams? Were they sponsored by different groups or what?
Yeah, basically, everybody. Some of the sponsors are the same. They cross over for sure. But listen, it's one big happy pizza family. Ultimately, like there's no like, oh, I can't hang out with you or I can't do this. It's like, especially when we're in Italy, we're all the Americans in Italy.
Yeah.
But we crossed those lines. It's an affiliation. It's a great way to promote your business. It's a great marketing tool being on these teams. It's a great way to be able to travel to compete.
Yeah.
But we all have a great time together no matter what. So
and then you get to see what's going on internationally too. So that influences what you're doing. Hopefully you come back with new ideas as well. So which brings us back to Pizza Leah, which, in which you feature a number of different styles. Can you talk a little bit about, I mentioned earlier, your classic sort of New York style sauce and cheese pizza, which was just, wonderful.
I like to call it New York inspired with a California twist.
Yeah. Perfect.
So I try to use as many California products as possible, which is really easy to do.
Yeah.
I have Central Milling just down the road. So I use Central Milling flour. We got Bianco di Napoli in the Central Valley. I love to use the Bianco di Napoli tomatoes. I use the Corto olive oil for my dough. So it's, my dough is pretty California when it comes to the ingredients.
We had the folks from the Corto olive oil team on the show, and I was blown away. I had no idea that they had gone so deep and all in on olive oil and had, in a sense, almost revolutionized the farming methods and the techniques for extracting the oil in a way that might be changing the whole, nature of the game.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I've been on their tour that they
Oh,
do that,
we want to do that. We definitely want to
oh,
do that. Yeah.
it's amazing. And they like, I mean, it's the Corto family. They're in the, so they
The
do a
Cortopassis, they're the
yeah,
Stanislaus tomato
Stanislaus,
family.
exactly. So they really put on a nice spread when they bring you up there. You
Oh,
stay
that's
stay a
awesome.
couple of nights in a hotel, and you do the tomatoes, and you go to the olive fields, and you go to the processing plants. It's really quite amazing.
It's
But
got to be fun.
yeah, it's great. But so with the pizza, and the reason I served you basically like just a plain cheese pizza first is because that's what, when I go to a new place, that's what I always
Yeah.
try first.
Yeah.
Because you can't hide the dough, sauce, and cheese.
Yeah.
You have, and I always use California cheese as well.
Really.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
nothing, grande stuff like that, Wisconsin cheese, it's great.
Yeah.
We're in the land of milk and honey here.
That's right.
We
That's
got
right.
our own cows, we got
Yeah.
our own cheese, we have our own dairy, and
I mean, why be in California if you're not going to use the plentifulness that you have there?
exactly. And I would say it's just as high, it's just as good quality. It's great.
Yeah.
So I like to showcase with that plain cheese pizza just how good the ingredients are. And then you can start throwing stuff on top of it and elevating it from there.
Yeah.
But if you're not using good cheese sauce and your dough's not good, then your pizza's not going to be great.
So you mentioned that you'd like to use the Bianco di Napoli sauce. Is that the sauce that we used on that pizza?
It is,
do you
yeah.
use that on all your pizzas, or do you have other sauces that you use, or other products, tomato products that you work in?
Other tomato products for, like, I use Stanislaus for my meatballs, and when I'm making the marinara sauce for the meatballs.
Those were good meatballs, by the way. I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I use Stanislaus for those, and I use Bianco on the pizzas.
I see. And then your cheeses come mostly from California style cheeses, or California made cheeses.
Yeah. I do have some import, like I use a sheep pecorino from Italy. I use a Reggiano for a finishing cheese, but I definitely buy local, some stuff from Valley Ford, Cowgirl Creamery, Point Reyes. We got so many great Vella Cheese Factory in Sonoma. Like
I used to love going to Vella and just going to their tasting room and just eating that dry jack like all day.
It's great. The mezzo secco is almost like a Parmesan texture.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's so nice to have all that there. And what other kinds of pizzas then are you creating? I remember one of the ones you served was like a grandma style or a square pizza.
Yeah, so I just call it a pan pie, kind of general, because it's not necessarily traditional to any one style. I love a grandma pizza. What I love about the grandma pizza is that fried crispy bottom that the grandmas get.
Yes.
So I oil my pans pretty heavily to get that beautiful, like, crispy fried bottom.
Yeah.
But then I let them rise in the pan and do a par cook, so that they're like, maybe 3/4 to an inch thick. So they should get that more of that airy fluffiness that you get from a Sicilian, but with that fried bottom of a grandma.
Is that a popular pie at the restaurant?
It is. It's actually, and if I could make more of them, they're very time consuming and they take up a lot of space. So I actually make a limited number of those every day, and we sell out most days.
It probably makes them even more valuable because there's only so many.
I get people calling up at like 11:30, like right when we open, and reserving them for dinner time.
Really? How nice. Yeah. You create this sort of the supply and demand challenge there for folks, which is great. So I remember we had that one and we loved that. And then there were a couple other interesting sort of creative topped pizzas as well.
I try to use, especially with all my specials, local produce and small farms. Right now I'm running a peach special that I'm getting the Dry Creek peaches. And are you familiar with Dry Creek peach?
Well, I don't remember when I lived up there I probably ate them without, but back then we didn't think that there was something special about them because they were just there,
Yeah. So one of their things is, Alice Waters has been known to call her one of her final meals would be a last chance peach from Dry Creek.
So that's the one. Okay.
It's a small artisanal farm. It's one of the only dedicated peach farms left in Northern California. And the fruit just is incredible that comes off of there.
They're not the farm, are they, that have a little cafe in the ferry terminal building down in because there's another famous peach farm there that and I had one of their peaches that Alice had also raved about, and also Jeffrey Steingarten had written about in one of his books. And that's where I first met Tony Gemignani, as we met there for the first time for coffee, and there were peaches. There was just peach season, and we each had a peach, and we both took a bite of the peach and just looked at each other and went, is this the first time we've ever had a real peach or what? It was like the peachness of it just came out. I mean, and then he's got a peach pizza featured in the Pizza Quest book. And
really?
And he tells that story of meeting there and having that peach and how much it influenced him, what an impact it made on him. It's tasting a peach. And I think the Dry Creek peaches are, in that same ballpark.
Yeah.
Where suddenly you realize
they have a quote on the wall from John Ash as well. When you go out to their farm stand.
Nice. Yeah. So is Dry Creek, is it right there in Healdsburg, or where are they located?
Yeah, it's in Healdsburg, Dry Creek Road, Dry Creek Valley. I mean, it's nothing but vineyards, and then there's
I missed the opportunity when I lived out there to take advantage of that one. I didn't grab it when I could. So this is the time of year. It's seasonal. So obviously you're doing some seasonal pizzas. A lot of places have gotten into peach pizzas. This seems to be a trend that I noticed when I was putting this book together. I think when people were sending their recipes in to me for the book, it was summertime. So we probably have three or four peach influenced pizzas in the book. A lot of corn pizzas. Are you doing anything with corn?
No, I haven't done a corn. I'm more of a summertime fruit pizza maker. So figs are coming soon. And
how do you combine your peach? What do you marry your peaches with on the pizza to bring out the best?
So right now I'm doing peaches, jalapenos, ricotta, heavy cream, and a balsamic reduction.
Sweet, that's nice.
I'll probably do a part 2 in a couple of weeks, and I want to do something with like a local kind of smoked ham, and maybe some candied walnuts. Something nice. I haven't quite put that one together in my head yet, but peaches, walnuts, peaches and pork. That's
interesting. So where do you get your ideas for how to combine ingredients? Is it just years of experience? Is there something that kind of triggers an idea?
I really love flavor pairings and hitting like all the different notes, or as many notes as I can on a pizza. Sweet and spicy, meaty and acidic. I love finishing with like a pickled onion or pickled stuff. So I just, in my head, I'm like, what do I want to build around? And whether it's a vegetable or a fruit. And then I say, okay, now how do I make this shine? How do I elevate it? What complements it? And kind of just build from there. Like I figure out first what I want to start with and what I want to feature, and then I build around it. Yeah,
it's interesting because in the old days, pizzas were pizzas, and there was sort of the standard repertoire of pizzas with whether it's sausage or it was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but nobody really thought about it from a standpoint of being a flavorist, and that's really been a big change in the last few years is people thinking about the acid, salt, fat, heat, how those things work together to create a synergy of flavors
too. It's all what complements and balances each other.
Yeah, exactly. So suddenly pizza makers are not just pizza makers. They are cooks that are delivering flavor. And that's what, of course, why pizza is the most popular food in the world, is it's a perfect flavor delivery system. But now people are doing it consciously. And
Yeah.
it seems like that's kind of like in your own evolution of as a pizza maker, you've become very conscious of how to compose
Mhm.
your palate. When I say palate, meaning the way an artist thinks of a palate, not just the palate of our mouth.
No, I totally agree. And I always actually refer to my menu as like, instead of like the specialty pies, more of like the composed pizzas,
That's good.
and I originally, when I first started like getting creative and competing and stuff like that, part of it was like, how can I take my favorite dish and recreate it onto a pizza? So that was kind of like where I started, and just like, what's my favorite dish, and how am I going to get it, and deconstruct it and
Yeah.
put it on a pizza. And then from there, I went to I took some culinary school classes just for fun back in the day.
Yeah.
I never finished the program, but it was a lot of fun taking classes while I could. And so I feel like it gave me like a good like background and basis for learning about how to flavor pair and matching.
Excellent. So yeah, it brought a little bit of the chef thinking
Yeah.
into your work. Yeah. Just enough to make you dangerous.
Exactly.
Some of the most successful chefs in this country were culinary school dropouts, by the way. So
Yeah.
I taught for 5 years.
That was me.
Yeah, I taught at the California Culinary Academy for 5 years when I lived in the Bay Area. And one of our most famous, they used to brag that one of the most famous students was Charlie Trotter, who was, world famous chef. But what they never used to say is, but Charlie Trotter dropped out after a few months of the school. And he said, I got enough. I'm going to go and do it myself now.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, listen, culinary school, it was the first time I went in and just started. I mean, I went to a good college and all that, but it was the first time I went into a classroom and was just 100% fully engaged and loved it.
Well, it is wonderful to be around people who can articulate, the science and the craft and the art and put it all together in a way that helps us further our own game. And I'm glad you got a chance to do that. Where do you see it going? I mean, Pizza Leah has been evolving for a couple of years. You've obviously learned some things on the ground, the hard learned lessons.
Yeah.
What's next for Pizza Leah?
I think about opening another restaurant. Originally I had wanted to be more of a dine-in restaurant, and COVID kind of changed that. So we're still pretty heavy takeout. I don't know. I mean, I think in my head, I'd love to, Pizza Leah. I got all these ideas. Pizza Leah squared.
Yeah. Right.
With the 2, it's a number 2, but maybe it's just focused on pan pies of some sort. Maybe a full service dine-in where I can explore the culinary side a little bit more and have a full kitchen. I only have pizza ovens right now. We cook a lot in the pizza oven, and I have an induction burner. But I'd love to have a full grill and fryers and all sorts of stuff to be able to make more than just pizza at some point.
I think that with your creativity, the Pizza Leah is a launching pad for opportunities for you to, in the next phase of your career, because you're still young enough to have a couple more phases ahead of you. I can see you expanding, and saying, okay, I'm going to now build on what I have and do some other things. But the one thing and I want to say this before we run out of time, is I was very impressed with your team when I was there that day. Your servers, the folks behind the counter, they're making the pizzas and cook. I mean, everybody was focused, what's the word, respectful, conscientious. And I think that's the biggest challenge for anybody who wants to expand into the next phase of their development, is finding people that can express and represent your ethic and your vision. And it looks like you've started with a good team there, and I hope you can continue to find people like that.
Me too. I mean, listen, my staff is the best, and they're the backbone of the whole operation. Like, none of this, I can be the best pizza maker in the world and none of it works without my staff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I give my staff a ton of credit. And some of my cooks back there have been making pizza as long as I have. You know, these guys are the guys in the kitchen, the girls up front, like everybody is just awesome. And listen, it wasn't by design. I didn't set out to hire an all-female front of house staff, but that's what I ended up with. And I love it. And it's like we're a little family, you know, and I really appreciate all of it.
Do you have any women working in the back, working on the pizza ovens?
Yeah, I have one. Oh, well,
besides yourself.
So all of my managers can run ovens.
Uh-huh.
I have one cook, like full-time cook, Rosie, and she cooks circles around the boys. And they know it too. Yeah. Like nobody messes with Rosie.
Well, the next time we have you on, when we come back and visit sort of Pizza Leah Squared in round 2, you know, we'll catch up with some of the ongoing evolution and growth, you know, of what you're doing, of your vision, because I have a feeling that there's a lot still to come, that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of what you're capable of doing and what you're going to do and the contributions you're going to make. So congratulations, first of all, on getting off to a great start and helping to elevate the town of Windsor, you know, and add something to it, to an already wonderful, you know, area, and to make your mark there. And, you know, we're going to be tracking you along the way, of course, seeing you at the various pizza shows and places where we have a chance to cross, you know, in person. But we want to thank you so much for coming on and bringing us up to date on what you're doing, and just best of success going forward, Leah.
Thanks for having me, Peter. I really appreciate it. It's been nice to talk to you and nice to meet you.
Thanks so much. And folks, join us again on the next episode of Pizza Quest, where, as you hear today, we love to meet with people and talk to people who have a fire burning in their belly, who are on a quest of their own to, you know, well, I say in search of the journey of self-discovery through pizza. So Leah, thank you so much for all you're doing. And we will see you all next episode of Pizza Quest.